Clouds are ominous, but we've been able to dodge raindrops here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. It's time for qualifying for the NASCAR Nationwide Series teams. 49 cars are here. First driver out. There you see Scott Wimmer in the 40 car. Steve Burns, Larry McReynolds, Jeff Hammond back with you.
Let the games begin, boys. It's going to get wild and woolly during this qualifying session, Steve. I can really get a feel for it right now that these times are going to be so close. This field is going to be so tight. I think we'll have a lot of guys who are going to be separated by 1/1000th of a second. Probably that'll be the difference with some of them, whether they make the race here or not.
Interesting schedule here. These guys had about over 2.5 hours of practice earlier this morning. That was first and final practice. Kind of an old short track, one-day show. They came in here yesterday, went through inspection, practice this morning, qualify this afternoon, and race under the lights tonight for 250 laps.
And I like it like that.
Scott Wimmer lost a 10th on his second lap.
He also lost a 10th from what he actually ran in practice. He ran a 16:17 in practice earlier. He ran a 16:04.
The shy one, Kenny Wallace up next. Kenny won here in August of 1994. 18 top 10 finishes.
Also has a pole in the Sprint Cup Series here in the spring of 1997, and Kenny will be celebrating a birthday on Sunday. Kenny was 43rd in the first practice, or the only practice that we had, as we see the sun start to pop out. What we've seen during all these practice sessions today, when the sun pops out, definitely loses grip and slows down. Now, Kenny lost his crew chief this week. Chris Rice moved over to the 70 car with Shelby Howard.
Brad Keselowski was the fastest in that nearly 3-hour practice earlier today.
Now, Kenny picks it up a 10th from practice.
Let's go to Wendy.
Justin Allgaier's in the car. There goes the scanner. Sorry about that. Justin Allgaier, 8th in practice. What do you hope to get out of your nationwide car for this qualifying session?
Well, we're really not sure what we're going to get for qualifying. We worked strictly on race runs, and earlier this year we had a top 5 run here, and that was really tantamount to a win for us. So we're just looking for a really good run. We think we got a good shot at maybe getting us a victory tonight, so we'll see what happens.
All right, Justin Allgaier getting strapped in there, and always a smile on young Justin's face.
Now, if he looks tired, it's because he ran almost 150 laps in that practice session earlier today. They definitely maximized from start to finish.
Young Trevor Bayne has 7 top 10 starts in just 9 races this 2009 nationwide season.
And his first lap, he becomes the first car to run in the 15s, 15:95 on lap 1, and slows down on lap 2. Right now, that's good enough to hold the top spot after 3 cars sat on the pole at ORP, one of the last times we were at a short track.
He drives for Michael Waltrip, and Michael says that is one sharp young man. In fact, he'll be on trackside.
Well, we might want to question how sharp he is if he's coming on trackside then. But,
well, good point.
You know, the thing about him is he puts down a pretty impressive lap. But again, Larry, we've been noticing one lap looks like that first lap is the best lap. We watch Brad Keselowski right now, the most recent winner.
And he was the fastest car in practice earlier. He ran a 15:76. Looks like he's definitely going to go to the top at a 15:91.
He's the defending champion of this race.
It's quite a bit slower than what he practiced at.
And if it kind of repeats, don't know that he'll pick up any. Slows down to a 16:02.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll see Brian Scott. He was fast in practice. Mike Bliss and Matt Carter. NASCAR Nationwide qualifying on speed is brought to you by Nationwide Insurance, the official auto insurance provider for NASCAR. And brought to you by Touch of Gray. Get rid of some gray, never all. A couple of updates. Brian Scott has his Toyota in the 3rd position. That's Mike Bliss. Bliss, the slowest of 6 drivers. Brad Keselowski still the quickest.
Larry, we haven't seen quite the times that I thought we might, because the racetrack is relatively cool right now. I'm just wondering how this entire compounded rubber is matching up with what now the Sprint Cup cars have been working into the racetrack for the last 3 hours.
Yeah, it's almost like the track lost the black rubber look.
Oh, boy, got his hand full there.
Matt Carter way up the racetrack in turn 1 and 2, but it's almost like it's lost some rubber with the Sprint Cup cars with this different right side tire. You're right, Jeff. We may get some rubber down and the speeds may get back on into this qualifying session.
You know, the racetrack definitely had a different look to it, Steve. I think Mr. Carter, he made a nice little recovery, keeping it out of the wall.
Sure did. He's 5th overall, lost 3/10 on his second lap.
Now back to Mike Bliss. He's the only car of the 7 that actually picked up just a little bit. We're talking about 1/100th of a second from lap 1 to lap 2, but Mike 7th of the 7 cars.
Danny O'Quinn Jr. has 5 Bristol starts.
Danny comes in here 18th in the points right now. Got that sponsor of Sun Drop on the car this week. Sponsors him on an occasion.
I'm glad of that, too, because usually when they show up, they bring some good old-fashioned Sun Drop to the racetrack. Love that drink.
His first lap of 16:18. I think he'll be pretty happy with that, Jeff. That's over 2/10 quicker than what he ran in practice earlier. Right now, he's 5th quickest. I believe this is going to be a little slower.
Let's go to Bob Dillner.
Brad Keselowski, quick so far, but is the track a little bit slower? You were a little bit slower than your mock qualifying run earlier.
I mean, it's a little bit. It's hard to tell yet. Get a couple more of these really good cars to come out with Kyle in the 29. Flip Warrior there. We'll get a better judge, but either way, the Degree Chevrolet has been awesome all day today, and I know it's going to race well. The sun's out a little bit, and that probably slowed the track down a little bit, but it's hard to tell, and we'll just have to wait and see. But I felt pretty good about my lap. I didn't really feel like I messed up too bad. It was a good lap, probably not perfect, but pretty good.
Keselowski going for 2 in a row in this race.
Thank you, Bob. Justin Allgaier. Driving for Penske Racing.
First lap 15:96, and as we mentioned, ran a ton of laps. He was running all the way up to the black and the red flag. Ends up 3rd quickest right now. Picked up a little bit.
Finished 5th here in the spring. Stay with us. More nationwide qualifying still to go. 20-year-old Coleman Presley on the racetrack, making his 2nd NASCAR Nationwide Series start. The son of great short track racer Robert Presley is an 8th overall. And Sean Murphy, who qualified while we were away, 11th.
Coleman's got over 20 late model wins in the last 4 years, and the one race you talked about he did in his 2nd start, he went to Iowa, qualified 26th, and finished 41st. I believe he was racing with Brandon last weekend at Myrtle Beach, wasn't he?
Yeah, and Coleman actually finished 2nd down there, so had a good run last weekend in the UARE series.
Jason Leffler will be followed by Matt Kenseth, David Rudiman, and Eric McClure.
Jason has a pole here a couple of years ago in August of 2007, the spring race, qualified 9th and finished 10th. First lap only good enough for 10th quickest in this 38 car.
21 top 15 finishes for Leffler in 2009, 4th in points.
Way off from what he ran in practice. He did pick it up to a 16:19, but just like we were talking to Brad Keselowski, that's a couple of tenths slower than what he ran.
Wendy.
Kevin Harvick ended up 7th in the practice session earlier today. Kevin, you and Ernie Cope threw everything at this race car. Are you pleased with the way it ended up?
Yeah, I think our Ream Chevrolet wound up pretty good. The 88's pretty much got everybody covered at this point, so we had to do something to try to make our car a little bit better. They brought a different tire this time, so we wanted to run through a different right front springs, coil bind, different things that we didn't try here last time. So hopefully we did the right things, and we'll find out tonight.
It sounds like you had a nice off day yesterday at the marina.
Yeah, we did. It was nice to have a day where we didn't have much to do.
All right, word on the street is he threw Delana, his wife, off the inner tube off the boat at Lakeview Marina nearby. Beautiful scenic area out here in the Bristol area, guys.
It's not many drivers can get by with doing that to the car owner. Get you in trouble. Matt Kenseth ends up 2nd quickest at a 15:94.
Kenseth, a 3-time winner here in Nationwide Series competition. Let's go to Bob.
Down here with Justin Allgaier, and we were just talking about how the car was, and you motioned to your crew like it was super duper tight.
Yeah, we were really tight, unfortunately, and you know, we worked really hard on it all day in race trim, and we didn't focus a whole lot on qualifying runs. So I think we got a really good race car. You know, we had a top 5 here earlier in the spring, and that was really tantamount to a win for us. So now we just got to go in tonight. Hopefully we can get a win.
Justin Allgaier, one of the good guys in this sport, and hoping for a good run tonight.
Bob, David Rudiman just got real loose coming off turn 4.
He was Kyle Busch loose, was he not?
And I think his time reflects it, a 16.82. Boy, this team had a great weekend in Michigan with Brian Vickers last week. Sat on the pole, finished second. Jacques Villeneuve is going to drive for him at Montreal next week.
So David Rudiman picks up, but still the slowest of 14 drivers to qualify. Stay with us. Back at Bristol Motor Speedway, Michael Annett finishes his qualifying attempt. He is 5th overall. I want to update you as well. Eric McClure, the 24 car, 14th overall of 16 drivers who have qualified. 49 are here. One driver, Ryan Hackett, the 76 car, has withdrawn. He did practice this morning, but that entry has been withdrawn.
Yeah, he slowed down a little bit on lap 2, and but that 16.08 to make him 5th quickest right now.
It's time for our Papa John's track description. This track's been around since 1961, the world's fastest half-mile speedway.
Pretty much no straightaway whatsoever, 650 feet front and back, and we have the progressive banking when they reconfigured and resurfaced the racetrack a couple of years ago, from 26 up to 30 degrees up at the top.
They got progressive seating around here too.
160,000 around a half-mile racetrack.
Wow, Clint Boyer second quickest on his first lap. Brad Keselowski ran a 15.91 to Clint Boyer's 15.93.
He will not pick up on lap 2. That's about a half a tenth off of what he ran as he slows down to a 15.98. So Brad Keselowski definitely dodged that bullet there.
Clint Boyer won here in March of 2008. 6 top 10 finishes in 9 Bristol nationwide starts.
Guys, I'm going to go back and say it again. I really believe this racetrack lost some grip. The Cup cars went out, basically erased the rubber they had laid down earlier in the day's practice for the Nationwide Series. The track didn't have the grip it had in it earlier.
Yeah, because honestly, even though the sun's been popping in and out, the racetrack I don't think should be that much warmer than it was.
Reed Sorensen will make his 3rd Nationwide Series start of 2009.
This is the car that Mike Bliss drove for most of the season, won at Lowe's Motor Speedway. He was taken out of the car before Watkins Glen. Reed raced at Michigan last week. Max Pappas is going to drive it at Montreal, and then Ryan Newman in Atlanta in a couple of weeks. Reed's first lap, 6th quickest at a 16.07.
Sorensen will be followed by Michael McDowell, Kevin Harvick, Jason Keller, Carl Edwards, and David Reagan. Got some heavy hitters coming up here.
We get a pretty good idea now what this racetrack's all about. Not to say these other guys haven't done a good job, but we know Kevin and Carl and David are all going to be leaning on it pretty hard.
We talked about McDowell during Nationwide Series practice. Started the year at JTG Doherty Racing, now driving for K Automotive, a Keselowski family team.
Yeah, Brian Keselowski that drove this car a good part of the year. He's now the crew chief. That's, of course, is Brad's brother. He's taken a step back for the time being, and they're trying to help Michael McDowell stay in the top 10 in points. Michael comes in here 10th, as he will end up 9th quickest, and this team is 30th in the owner points. Remember, in Nationwide, it's the top 30 teams that's locked in.
McDowell 9th overall of 19 drivers. Bob Dillner.
So close for Clint Boyer, but Brad Keselowski dodges a bullet and 2nd quick so far.
Dang it.
It was, you know, a good job. Doug and all the guys in Holiday Inn Chevrolet. This is a fun racetrack. Looking forward to starting up front, having some fun tonight. This Nationwide Series is a lot of fun to participate in. Hopefully we can root and bang and gouge and everything you do out here and have fun.
Clint Boyer and Brad Keselowski have a history around this racetrack too.
Well, his teammate in the Cup Series has a history around this racetrack. The man on the track now, Kevin Harvick, in that 33 car.
5 times a winner and 2 poles for Kevin Harvick in the Nationwide Series.
He was 7th quickest in practice, won the spring race here. And remember, that's the first time of all the wins he's had that he actually won a Nationwide Series race in his own race car.
Nationwide Series race later tonight on ESPN2 starting at 7:30.
Race car still looks kind of nervous to me, like it's not in the racetrack quite as well as he'd like for it to be. He winds up 6th quickest, the 16.072, and slows down about a 10th on his second lap.
Car really went up the racetrack, or he was dominating the racetrack, especially on lap 2. And the track qualifying record here, Greg Biffle set it back in March of 2004. I think it's going to be safe. It's a 15:09 around this half-mile racetrack.
Jason Keller got one of his 10 career series wins here at Bristol. That was back in 1999, spring race.
Talked about Goodyear doing a tire test here back in July with a Cup car, a couple of trucks, and a couple of Nationwide Series teams. Jason was one of the teams that participated in that tire test for Goodyear. Jason 7th in the points, first lap 16:12, good for 10th quickest.
Leads all Nationwide Series drivers with 31 starts here at Bristol.
For a while, he performed well on concrete racetracks here at Dover. Ends up 10th right now.
10th of 21. Carl Edwards of the Save-A-Lot Ford.
Be interested to watch and see what Carl can do here.
Carl really took a hit last week as he got caught up in that early race accident. He is now 2nd, 339 points behind leader Kyle Busch. Gave up over 120 points with that wreck, ended up finishing 40th, 127 to be exact.
Edwards has a Nationwide Series win and a Cup win here at Bristol.
First lap, though, right behind Brad Keselowski at a 15.93, 2nd quickest.
Just 200th slower.
You just continue to lose grip as you go through 3 and 4 trying to complete lap 2.
Carl slows down just a tick on his second lap, but first lap good enough for 2nd behind Brad Keselowski.
And the thing is, right now, we know we got a lot of racing to do in the Nationwide Series, but I think that we're getting down there closer to where I think Carl's got to kind of like start showing caution to win. Just go for the wins and let everything else kind of fall the way it is. Not to say he's not been trying to do that. I know on a couple of occasions. I think he's deliberately tried to get a solid finish out of it and keep it close.
Well, it puts this in perspective. Kyle finished 3rd at Michigan. That was his worst finish in 11 consecutive starts.
It's kind of hard to gain on a guy like that.
I mean, where do you make it up?
David Reagan, in his first lap, 16:01, puts him 7th quickest. David has made 14 starts in 2009. Normally on his game qualifying, he has 10 top 10 starts, working on 11.
Yeah, top 6 starts in 5 of his last 6 nationwide events. 7th overall for David Reagan. Coming up, we'll see Tony Raines, Brad Coleman, and Stephen Wallace. NASCAR Nationwide Qualifying on Speed is brought to you by Atlanta Motor Speedway. Be there when the lights come on as NASCAR Sprint Cup night racing comes to Atlanta Motor Speedway Labor Day weekend. Go to AtlantaMotorspeedway.com for event and special ticket information. A couple of updates. Tony Raines is 34th. Brad Coleman 7th overall. Stephen Wallace next out onto this Bristol Motor Speedway. His dad, a 9-time winner here, Rusty Wallace.
Hang on to her, Stephen.
His first lap, 15.99. That was good for 8th quickest, and I think he'll just bring her on around and bring her in. He tried to get a little bit more. It's not hard to find that stepping across that line here.
No, not here. Not today, especially.
Let's go to Bob.
David Reagan and Carl Edwards chatting here just a little bit after both of their runs. Carl Edwards right now, 2nd quick, and Carl, 2 100ths of a second. You couldn't get 2 100ths of a second on the racetrack?
I probably could if I had another shot at it, but Brad's just doing a great job, man. I know where he came from, but I was looking at those points you guys had on the screen a little while ago. He's got me kind of nervous. So, you know, hopefully that'll hold up for the front row. I think Kyle will be real fast. And you just never know. There's still a lot of guys left to go, but our Save-A-Lot Fusion was pretty good. Happy with it. Now just I hope that Affleck Fusion's as fast as this one.
Carl will be a threat for the win here tonight in the Nationwide Series.
And what he means by him finishing 40th at Michigan, Brad Keselowski winning the race. Now Brad Keselowski's only 50 points behind Carl Edwards for second.
Casey Kane in his McDonald's Toyota. Casey won here this race 2 years ago. He is 13th overall.
Making his second of 4 starts, scheduled in 2009. His next 2 will be at Atlanta in 2 weeks and at Lowe's Motor Speedway on into the fall.
28th driver to qualify, Brendan Gaughan, teammate to Steve Wallace at Rusty Wallace Racing.
And those 2 Rusty Wallace cars in practice, Stephen Wallace and Brendan Gaughan, they ran a ton of laps. Brendan actually sat on the pole here for the spring race back in March.
Just watching that tractor, something didn't hook up good down in 1 and 2 because he lost a bunch of time and he's not gaining it back.
No, this is not going to be a good lap. Maybe he can adjust for lap 2. Looked pretty good through 1 and 2.
Much better,
a lot
much better.
And I think the tractor's reflecting it.
25th overall in his first attempt.
You know what he did? He eased that thing into turn 3 and definitely made up ground coming off turn 4. Still not the run he's probably looking for. He's going to end up probably starting about mid-pack. Right now he's 17th.
Well, actually, you know, it may not be exactly where he's looking for, but realize he was 35th at the end of practice. He picked up 3/10 over what he qualified at. Practiced earlier, so say that.
Ken Butler the third of the number 23 car, the Aaron's Dream Machine. Has 12 starts this year in the Nationwide Series. He'll make his first Bristol start tonight.
Yeah, his best start was the last time he was at the track at Iowa, qualified 23rd. First lap, a 16:40, puts him 25th. Definitely going to be a little bit slower. We've only had just a few cars pick up on lap 2 of his cars that had major issues on lap 1.
You know what, guys? This qualifying session is zipping by. Kyle Busch, the last driver out who's locked in. Then we'll start go or go home qualifying.
There's one thing about this racetrack, it doesn't take very long to get around here, even when you run 2 laps.
And the guy that goes next to last, even in the go or go home group, Ryan Newman in that 5 car. So we'll have to wait a while, I think, to settle this one.
Kyle Busch has a pole and a win here, Nationwide Series Racing.
Sounds to me like I heard that engine rev up just a little bit up off of turn 2, like he's loose and he's up there running right close to the marbles.
16th overall.
He has got his hands full.
And I think this is probably one of the teams, Jason Ratcliffe, crew chief, remember they quit very early in that practice session, banking on this track tightening up tonight. I'm sure they'd like to start a little higher, but he actually picks up 1/100th of a second, but picks up 2 spots.
Let's take a look at the drivers coming up as go or go home qualifying begins, brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And it is a long list, 49 teams here. So we said one withdrew, the 76 of Ryan Hackett.
Tell you what, this man right here, Morgan Shepherd, you look at some pretty strong numbers for him here at Bristol Motor Speedway. 4 wins and 3 poles for Morgan Shepherd.
I believe he just brushed the wall, too.
For the way the quarter panel looks, I'd agree with you, Steve.
And you know what's sad? He was definitely good enough in practice to be able to qualify for this show, but he's got work to do from where he's got right now. Did not qualify at Michigan last week.
30 drivers separated by just, gosh, not even half a second.
He picked up quite a bit on that second lap, so he gave himself at least a chance, Larry.
But that's so much slower than what he ran in practice. I think this is what you were looking at, Steve.
Yep.
This was up off turn 2 on the first lap. Car got a little bit loose. Almost got that pushy loose. He just couldn't turn the steering wheel. just skimmed the wall just ever so slightly.
And you're talking about all 31 drivers who have qualified were separated by tenths of a second, and that'll kill his lap.
Yes, it will.
Derek Cope trying to make his 9th start of 2009 and 150th his Nationwide Series career. He is 25th overall on his first lap.
Decent lap for him, 16:26. I would feel pretty decent about that right now.
So Brad Keselowski still the man to beat here at Bristol. Stay with us here on Speed. Back at Bristol, Peyton Sellers in the 77 car in his first lap. He was good enough for 17th overall. Great qualifying effort for Sellers. Dennis Setzer also made his attempt. Setzer 27th overall, 3rd of the 4 go-home drivers who have qualified.
But for that second lap of Peyton Sellers, it almost got pretty exciting off turn 4. And I just had said when he ran that 16:12, I'm not sure I'd even run the second lap.
John West Townley crashed in qualifying at Michigan International last week. Turned some pretty good laps in practice earlier this morning.
He's been pretty solid.
His best weekend this year was right here back in the spring. His best start of the year, he qualified 12th, and his best finish, he finished 16th.
Whoa, buddy, hang on to her, hang on to her, hang on to her. First lap's gonna be good enough, so call him down, call him down.
Yeah, 16-16, I'd feel pretty good about that lap.
John West Townley 20th overall, 2nd of the go-home drivers to Peyton Sellers.
I think right now, just looking, if you run in the 16 teens, maybe even the low 20s, you're going to be in pretty good shape. I'd be a little nervous about that 16:37 that Dennis Setzer ran.
I agree with you there, Larry. I think that he's going to be right on the edge, but John West Townley and Peyton Sellers have got to be pretty happy right now.
61-year-old Brad Teague on the racetrack. We go to Wendy.
And Ryan Newman is patiently waiting for his qualifying effort right here. We're walking with the car. All right, Ryan, tell us about, are you being entertained?
Trying to keep your camera guys from getting run over by my generator.
Well, hopefully that won't happen. How is your race car going to be? You were 20th in the practice. Are you pleased with the Nationwide car?
National Chevrolet was pretty good. We spent a lot of time in race trim and got to kind of go back to the Nationwide car from the Cup car, but it felt pretty good. We just got to get a good conservative lap. Meaning not go for the pole necessarily, but we'll take it if we can get it.
How difficult is it to switch over between the two?
I'll let you know after 2 laps.
Righty, there you have it. Ryan Newman, all smiles down here nonetheless.
Wendy Brad Teague, 28th overall, 4th of the go-home drivers.
He just barely beats Dennis Setzer, so we'll have to see if that's going to be significant or not.
Scott Lagasse up next in the 42 car. He's 15th in points despite missing the last 2 races. We said he started the year in the 11 car of CJM Racing.
Yeah, after Iowa, he finished 9th there. That was his last race in the 11 car. Now what that's going to do, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt lap 1, and it's going to be hard to recover, I think, lap 2 because of where it happened over there in the middle of turn 4, Jeff.
He couldn't have picked the worst place, Larry. He would have, down in 1 and 2, he probably could have recovered for the second lap. But again, he's got his hands full. He practiced well earlier, and he was hoping that this was going to be a good turnaround weekend. He did have a little bit better of a pickup on the second lap, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
I don't think a 16:57 will get you in this show.
Well, from what we've seen his car do, though, Steve, if it happens to some of the other competitors, it may be okay. He may be able to survive this, but that was not the lap he was expecting.
I want to mention, too, that Peyton Sellers is now locked into the field. Scott Lagasse's time. It's Travis Kittleson in the 31 car, the car owned by Stanton Barrett. Kittleson has 4 starts in 2009.
Travis was 32nd quickest in practice earlier at a 16:23. First lap 16:68. Don't feel real good about that.
Coming up, we'll see Shelby Howard, Paul Menard, Chase Austin, and Johnny Chapman.
Now the green stripe at 20th, that represents John West Townley. Kittleson picks it up a little bit, I'm just not sure that's going to be enough, but that will lock John West Townley into the show, and I'm sure that they feel awfully good about that because, as you mentioned, Steve, actually crashed in qualifying at Michigan and had to go home.
Shelby Howard in the 70 car. See, he's from Greenwood, Indiana.
Working with a new crew chief this week, Chris Rice, who had been over at the 28 car with Kenny Wallace, moved over. This team operates out of Warsaw, Indiana, running a limited schedule in 2009, roughly about 20 races.
Best finish this season, 12th in Nashville.
Now you can see the green stripe has moved to 27th. That represents Derek Cope. He's the car on the bubble right now. Shelby's first lap is a 16:47.
Derek Cope, sorry Jeff, Derek Cope now locked in. And we go back to Bob Dillner.
Here with Peyton Sellers, and a couple people had some interesting incidents here during qualifying, but you definitely got into the wall a little bit with that right rear.
Absolutely. You know, it's no pressure now. We can't tear anything else up anymore, so I'm just happy for SFP, everybody involved here at Cardinal Motorsports. And we've struggled the last couple weeks, and I got to bear a lot of that load of being a rookie driver. And we had to take a couple rounds out of it in practice, and it just hit the ground on me getting down in the corner, and it shot up the track. And I was trying to make a lap out of that second lap there, and it just didn't work out. So, thank you.
Take a look at this, the right rear quarter panel on this machine. The NASCAR officials are down here and so forth, and it's okay. It's Bristol, right?
Shoot, I think she's race ready.
Oh, yeah, she's right now ready to go to battle.
I would not go to the rear of the field because of that little bit of damage.
Peyton Sellers, John West Townley, and Derek Cope can breathe easy. They are locked into the show.
Didn't you tell me that Mark Smith's rental car looks kind of like that after him driving you up the mountain yesterday?
Man, texting while he's driving in the rain with no windshield wipers.
Ooh, that's against the law.
I guess he should have flown like John Roberts.
Ooh.
Well, it is a long drive from Mooresville, North Carolina. Takes about, what, 2.5 hours?
If you hit traffic.
Paul Menard in the 98, 7 Bristol starts.
You know, we were talking about this earlier today. You know, Paul, this will be his 10th start, attempting to make 10 starts here in 2009. He's got 3 top 10 starts, finished 5th at Texas with the 2 or 3 other top 10 finishes. Always has a pretty good run in this 98 car.
I got news for you right now, Larry. That's a nervous number 98.
Yeah, 16:35. He's going to slow down to 16:37. So now we have Derek Cope and Brad Teague locked in. That actually puts Paul Menard right on the bubble at that 16:35. I just think this racetrack has totally caught most of these guys off guard. It's not the same track they had when they practiced earlier, even though they had 3 hours of practice.
No, it's not. And again, the guys who can guess right on the setup later on the night, they'll still be okay. They'll make their way through traffic as the racetrack starts to rubber back up and change as you go later on the evening. But right now for qualifying, it's got to be like a thrill ride out there for these guys.
Chase Austin turned some pretty quick laps earlier this morning in practice. They had a 2-hour and 50-minute practice.
I'd say he did.
How about that? The 07 car, 25th overall, and he is locked in.
Locked himself in. Where's the crew chief?
Yeah, we're based on Peyton Sellers' second lap. I believe I'd shut her down because he's already in the show at that 16:20. Slows down about a 10.
But he is locked in. Coming up, we'll see Johnny Chapman. We'll see Kevin LePage, Mark Green, and others. That's Kevin LePage in the 78 car. He and another veteran driver, Johnny Chapman, both locking themselves into the show.
Kevin actually has a win here back in the day.
It's Mark Green, the Jay Robinson entry. 19 Bristol starts for Mark Green.
As a go-or-go-home driver.
Yeah, we are down to 6 cars left in this qualifying session.
He locks in.
And Morgan Shepherd, unfortunately, is bumped out.
Now, Mark Green was smart enough, I think, to get his lap time, and he shut her down after lap 1.
No sense tempting fate or this racetrack.
Gosh, I hate to see Morgan Shepherd miss the show.
I think Morgan was going to get in if he hadn't gotten that outside of
the wall.
turn
Yep.
2 right there.
And you know, we actually had 50 cars that practiced earlier. We had one car withdraw. Ryan Hackett, the 76 car, withdrew, and that took us down to 49 cars.
Next up, Casey Atwood in the 05 for Day Motorsports. He has 15 starts in his 2009 season, 10 starts at Bristol. Started second back in this race in 2000. Best finish of 9th in the same race.
Not that great in practice, 47th quickest, so they've got some work to do from where they were in practice earlier today. And the reason this tracker moves so abruptly is because it's so tight. I mean, that's the reason you see it jumping around so much. Tell you what, I believe this lap is going to do a good job for Casey. I'll say 16-18-0. He ties Danny O'Quinn Jr. Of course, Danny O'Quinn Jr. is higher in points, but I'm sure Casey Atwood could care less. The guy that was 47th in practice is locked into the show.
Bad news, though, for Scott Lagasse. He is bumped out. We're down to it now. After Casey Atwood, it's Terry Cook, Benny Gordon, Ryan Newman. Curtis Davis goes out last.
So the cars that are not locked in, but they're not locked out, it's Paul Menard, Dennis Setzer, Shelby Howard, and Travis Kittleson.
Watching Terry Cook there trying to warm that right front, right side tires. Guys, I'm just wondering if Terry says, this is the same tire that I ran here on Wednesday night, and you got to do a little bit of something extra to it. Maybe he's trying to get a little more heat in.
And Jeff, he was pretty quick in practice. He was 19th quickest. So as long as he just gets a solid lap in, I think he'll be in good shape with this 91 car. His teammate Johnny Chapman right now is locked in at 32nd. That lap there won't quite lock him in. It will send Travis Kittleson to the house, but it still hadn't locked Terry Cook in just yet. In fact, the little green stripe there is Paul Menard. That's 34th.
Now he's going back the right way.
It's going to be right on top of Paul Menard, but he will lock in at 32nd. As mentioned, sends Travis Kittleson to the house. Paul Menard still on the bubble.
Next up, Benny Gordon.
Benny was a Pro Cup champion back in 2008. This team operates out of Pennsylvania. They finished 12th at Iowa the last time they were at the racetrack. Benny was decent in practice. He ran a 16-19th. He was 28th quickest. Car bottomed out, shot him up the racetrack just a little bit. Boy, it's going to be awfully close here on lap 1, but I think he'll do it at a 16:31. He is locked in. That sends Shelby Howard to the house. I believe he's going to be a little better on this second lap. Yes, sir. Picks up to a 16:28. And that was good enough to pick up a position or two.
Well, it's curious now to see what Ryan Newman has. Does he have anything for Brad Keselowski?
Well, Paul Menard and Dennis Setzer are very curious to see what Ryan Newman has. Ryan was 20th quickest in practice.
Steve, we said it many, many times. Sometimes when it comes to this racetrack, you got to be patient. And for the Rocket Man to make his show, he may need to be a little bit on the patient side instead of trying to attack this place.
And I think that's almost what he said in his interview a while ago with Wendy. This is definitely going to get him in and probably well in the top 10, right there on it. In fact, 10th quickest at a 16:04. Unfortunately, that sends Dennis Setzer to the house. He's going to go ahead and run that second lap to no avail, so it's going to come down to Paul Menard versus Curtis Davis to see who gets into this show. And little did we think that looks like Brad Keselowski may be headed for that pole and went very early in the session.
Very early.
So it looks like the third career pole for Brad Keselowski. Curtis Davis, the final driver to qualify.
But Steve, I think we set it up at the top of the show. Right now, Brad Keselowski is on the pole at a 15:91. Paul Menard does not know if he's going to make this show in a 16:35. 4.5 tenths of a second.
Right. Not even half a second.
Curtis was not very good in practice. 39th quickest. And the little green stripe now, that represents Paul Menard, who's 37th right now. Curtis's first lap will not do it at a 16:37. He's 2/100ths of a second slower than Paul Menard. It basically runs identical speed, so Paul Menard will race at a 16:35. Dennis Setzer and Curtis Davis, they go home at a 16:37.
Man, you said it was going to be close.
It was. Take a look at your front row. We'll come back in just a moment and talk to Brad Keselowski, who captures his 3rd career pole.